We disagree. Disagree. And it's so and I'm not.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we have come in from closed session, and there is one announcement out of closed session. I'll let our attorney announce the
Yeah,
motion.
thank you, Mayor and council members. The city council did meet in closed session. There was one suit that was authorized unanimously by the council. The particulars of that, including the defendants and the names, will be disclosable upon request once that action is commenced. And that's it.
Thank you very much. So I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Dowden Calvillo.
Present.
Holmes. And Mayor Amara.
Present. Thank you very much. And can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and Vice Mayor Davis? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now is the time for the mayor's commendation and proclamation. So we have one tonight. And this is a commendation. It's for National Public Works Week. I think we have. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so this is National Public Works Week, and whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Auburn, California. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees of all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste system, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children in Auburn, California to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Sandra Amara, Mayor of Auburn, California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 18th to the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life. Issued the 12th day of May, 2025. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, there you go. Yeah. You have something to say?
Thank you, everybody. I didn't know I had to speak. It's been a pleasure to work in Public Works. We're doing a lot of exciting things lately and got a lot of upcoming good projects on the books. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'd like to add something very quickly.
I'm only standing here pretending to be someone who does work. These gentlemen here are like gold to the gold country. I mean, I can't begin to say that enough. Tim alone has taken,
Identify yourselves too, the two of them.
Tim alone has taken on our stormwater program and has helped us to map and identify miles of our system that we didn't even know existed. Matt is doing things on a daily basis that's beyond what any one person should do. There's a national push to identify public works staff as first responders because of all the things they do for communities during all types of events. The council should look forward to something here very shortly as we identify our public works staffs as first responders because we support everything in every aspect of the city. I'm very proud of these gentlemen.
Again, thank you very much. So we have the adoption of the agenda. This is a time set aside for council members and or the public to ask for removal, postponement, or a change to the listed sequence of an agenda item. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Is there any change with council, public? May I have a motion, please?
I'll move approval of the agenda as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Anyone on the council want to remove any of the items?
I have a question on 4.
Number 4.
And item 3, please. Just a technical.
Nope, sorry, mine's on 3.
Oh, 3.
3, not 4. 3.
And Mr. Holmes, or
He's-
Councilman Holmes, 4?
Holmes said 4.
4. Okay, may I have anyone from the public have an item they'd like to remove? Then do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda as amended to remove 3 and 4.
I'll second.
Roll call of council, Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes. And Mayor Amara.
Yes, thank you. Item number 3, Council Vice Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Menjel. I think this is a simple, I just want a clarification that there's $27,000 available, but what's the $160,000?
I think that was I actually had that item
Yeah.
too. I believe that it was just a typo, that the resolution says 160,000. I think it was from a previous allocation, right, Menjel?
So the correct amount is the 160.
It is 160,000. So what's the 27,000?
The 27,000 is from a previous. That was the mistake.
Wow,
That's a
okay.
Great mistake.
So, so the bottom line is we could receive 160,000.
We will receive 160,000. These funds will be utilized to support our transit operations. We're going to try to reduce fares or some free rides. We'll work together once we decide, once we get the funds.
Under the confluence?
I had a feeling you might say something like that, but we will certainly talk about what the funds will be used for.
Okay.
But so the amount then is that we're applying for is $160,643.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that is for a potential project in 2026.
Yes, so the funds are expected to be here in December of this year.
Right.
So we can use the funds after that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Public? May I have a motion, please?
I'll move
For the
approval.
resolution?
I'll move approval of the resolution as proposed.
Second.
Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes. Mayor Amara.
Yes, thank you very much. That passes. And Councilman Holmes, Auburn Transit.
I saw that there was a thing about limited English proficiency. And I'm wondering if that has been a problem with our public transit up to this point, and whether we have any people that work for us that fall into that category.
Yes.
Okay.
I can speak to this. So this Title VI program is just to make sure that the city has all the available resources to all folks, that some who cannot speak English proficiently. I'll say that we haven't had any issues in our organization. I would say that Auburn Transit has done very well. We have some bilingual drivers, so we've reached out to people in ways that we can. And with our support through PCTPA in Placer County, we have met all of our Title VI needs and surpassed them, I might say.
It's really just adding that it as an additional means of discrimination that somebody
Yeah,
could
yeah.
file a complaint, and we haven't had any complaints. I see that.
Okay, thank you. Then Councilman Holmes, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions or remarks on this? Okay, do I have, public? Do I have a motion?
By resolution, I'll move to adopt the Title VI program, public participation plan, and limited English proficiency language plan for Auburn Transit.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Riddell Harris. Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
And Mayor Amara.
Yes, thank you very much. That passes. Now, public comment. This is a time provided so the public may speak to the council on any item not on the agenda. Please make your comments as brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot act on items not included on this agenda. Items may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Do I have any public comment from the council? Okay, we'll have our committee reports later. How about from public? Oh, want to step forward? Please, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Ann Sweeney, and I am here to address rising utility rates. I think we have all noticed that our PG&E rates have just been skyrocketing over the last few years. And in the last year alone, they've increased the rates 6 times. And yet their profits are on the order of $2.5 billion. There's a group of us that has been going to the Public Utilities Commission meetings, calling in, and they look at us, but they're ignoring us. So I'm here to see if the city council would be willing to maybe stand with us and give some more politically connected support. We basically have 3 things we would like to request you consider. One of them is we'd like to see a formal resolution opposing future rate hikes and urging the CPUC to reject any more of these increases. And if you have any good connections with the state legislators and regulators, please, on our behalf, if you could speak to them and try to make some improvements to help our situation. And the third item is to support community-based energy solutions. A lot of people are hurting and we just don't know what to do. If you really want to have your heart broken, next Thursday is the Public Utilities Commission, and just call in and listen to some of the public comments and you'll cry your eyes out. So anything you could do to help to stand with us, we'd welcome the help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll have staff look into that.
Good evening, Mayor Amara and Vice Mayor Dowden Calvillo and Council. I'm Lisa DeLobby.
Vice Mayor is
Davis.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry. Vice Mayor Davis. Hi, I'm Lisa DeLobby. I'm the Community Outreach Manager for Pioneer Community Energy. And I'm happy to provide a brief update on some of the new programs that we've launched. As a reminder, Pioneer supplies the electricity indicated as generation on customer bills, but the gas, transmission, and distribution, all of those services still come from PG&E. Pioneer is the locally owned not-for-profit electricity provider serving El Dorado and Placer counties, the cities of Auburn, Colfax, Grass Valley, Lincoln, Nevada City, Placerville, Rockland, and the town of Loomis. And as you're aware, and you've already stated, energy costs, including generation, are rising across the board. And that's why Pioneer has reaffirmed its #1 priority, and that's saving customers money. In fact, Pioneer has saved our ratepayers over $108 million since we launched in 2018. And we have an additional $31 million planned this year in 2025. Last summer and again in December, our governing board, which is comprised of representatives from each of our member agencies, including Pioneer's board chair, council member Alice Dowden-Calvillo, approved rate cuts for our customers. So for 2025, Pioneer's rates are an average of 10% lower for residents and businesses when compared to PG&E's generation rates in their portion of the bill. But in addition to the lower rates, Pioneer has launched a series of money-saving programs, which include the following: partnering with our local retailers to provide steep discounts on LED lighting and energy-efficient products, a zero-down, no-credit check program to offer Tesla solar battery storage for customers. And you can also receive a storage battery if the customer already has solar. We also have launched a $75 rebate for folks who tune up their air conditioning units now through October 1st. And last, our Power Shift Rewards program offers incentives to curb your energy usage when the power grid is stressed. And you'll receive a $25 gift card just for signing up. So we encourage you to visit our website. I've left some flyers in the back for those of you to take advantage of our new programs. You can just use the QR code. We also have a number of field days where we invite customers to come meet with us on any bill-related questions, and those are hosted in the different communities that we serve, so you can check our events page on Facebook or check our Pioneer website. And then for those customers experiencing financial hardships, we do have a section on our website that provides information about those state-funded programs that provide bill assistance to income-qualified customers. So we have the CARE program, the FARA program, medical baseline, those types of programs. We're committed to providing customers with competitive rates and exceptional customer service. For more information, visit our website at pioneercommunityenergy.org. Thank you so much for your time. And sorry about.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very helpful. QR codes, so you can learn more about the program.
Thank you so much. Do I have any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Oh, sorry. Did you say there is?
We didn't have another public comment. Well, no,
She's doing that.
she's doing the next presentation.
All right.
Hi, my name is Sunday Kennedy. I'm very nervous, but I'm here to talk about housing for my disabled son. Oh, God. Sorry. He's been on the list for 11 years, and I've exhausted all of my avenues that I know of. So I thought maybe I'd come here and try to find some help. I've been taking care of him for the last 11 years, and I live in a small house with one bathroom, and with a bathtub, we don't have access for a shower for him. And he's 260 pounds, and it's hard for both of us. He's 46 years old. And I was hoping when the apartments went up and over by me and I can't think the low income apartments that he would qualify for one after 11 years, but nothing came through. So I'm just here to ask for some help to guide me.
I could have staff
Yeah.
work with you, okay?
I appreciate that.
Give them your name and number and all that.
And-
Okay.
And we can
you.
maybe check with the county too. So,
Yeah,
you give your.
staff will do a great job to help you. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, then we have our next council business, which is it's true to my heart. I love the Placer Mosquito and Vector Control District.
All right, thanks for having me. Great to see all of you. I'm going to give our annual update about what's going on with mosquitoes, ticks, and yellow jackets in Placer County. So my name is Megan Lovano. I'm the Public Information Officer at Placer Mosquito and Vector Control District. And just want to do a reminder about our district's mission. We have try to effectively and efficiently manage the risks from vectors and vector-borne disease in order to protect public health and quality of life in Placer County. And we are a special district. Our office is in Roseville, but we're governed by California mosquito and vector control law. We're overseen by a 7-member board of trustees, which are representative from Auburn. Sandy Bendorf is with me today, here to support our district. Each of our members that oversee our district represent the different cities and the town of Loomis. We have 25 full-time staff members, and then we hire seasonal employees and interns in the summer months when we're busiest to help us make sure we're meeting our mission. We serve the entirety of Placer County, all the way from West Placer up to the Tahoe Basin area. Each area of our district really has different issues that they deal with. All of them deal with mosquitoes, as you can see up there on that map. But in West Placer, we deal with mosquitoes and West Nile virus. Mid Placer, where we are in Auburn, we're still dealing with mosquitoes, but also ticks, and Lyme disease. And then in East Placer, Tahoe Basin area, we are still dealing with mosquitoes, especially right now. Snowmelt mosquitoes are starting to hatch off, and then we deal with yellow jackets, and we assist the California Department of Public Health with rodent issues. So this last year, there was a case of hantavirus, and we'll help them with surveillance of hantavirus. A little bit more about what we do. We follow an integrated vector management approach, which is really just a science-based decision-making process. And we have a bunch of programs that we do within that umbrella: vector and disease surveillance, chemical control, biological and physical control, community and school outreach, which is something I oversee. We have a very robust technology and innovation program where we really spearheaded, using drones in mosquito control, and are still trying to get other mosquito districts now across the country using drones in their mosquito control. And then we do applied research, which is really a program to just make sure we're using our tools as effectively and as efficiently as possible to meet our mission and protect public health in the county. So why I'm here in May and not in August is because May is Lyme Disease Awareness Month in Placer County. That was something that the Board of Supervisors acknowledged 2 years ago now, when we really want to do our part, especially in Auburn, spread this message of how important it is to protect yourself from ticks and the diseases that they spread. Here in Auburn and in Placer County, we do have ticks, the western black-legged tick. The scientific name is Ixodes pacificus, that has the ability to transmit Lyme disease. We usually say there's about 2 to 3% of all the ticks in Placer County, especially up here in the foothills, can carry Lyme disease. But there are ways to protect yourself from getting bit by a tick, and if you are bit by a tick, from preventing the transmission of Lyme disease. So the 5 Ds that we follow for tick prevention include defending yourself, so using an EPA-registered repellent. Those are the same repellents you would use to protect yourself from mosquitoes. Repellents that have ingredients like DEET, picaridin, IR3535, and oil of lemon eucalyptus. If you look on the back of your repellent bottle, there'll be an EPA registration number, and that means that that repellent and the ingredients that are included in it have been tested by the EPA and recommended as best protecting you from mosquito bites, the diseases they transmit, as well as ticks. You want to dress wearing long sleeves and pants, even tucking your pants into socks. Those ticks are looking for any bit of skin that they can get a blood meal from. Discouraging ticks by removing leaf litter around your home or dense vegetation. Making sure you do tick checks. That's one of the most important tips. When you get home from being in a tick-infested area, you want to take a shower, and then you want to make sure you're checking yourself for ticks, because they are sneaky and they are small, and it could take a while for you to identify them or see them. And then if you do have a tick that's attached to you, you want to detach it as quickly as you can. The longer it's attached, the more capability there is for disease transmission. So removing ticks promptly and properly is super important. Using tweezers, pulling them directly out, not pinching, but pulling out is really important. This is just a look at our public problem reports that were submitted in the month of April. This is pretty regular that we see this every April. We get a lot of mosquito reports in April and a lot of standing water reports. Those standing water reports are for ponds and water troughs. People are looking to get mosquito fish out in their ponds in April. So we're going out, we're making sure we're inspecting those standing water sources and then making the correct treatment. So again, if anyone in the audience or any of our council or mayor have an issue with standing water or mosquitoes, we have a public reporting program on our website. You could go on, submit your report, and our technicians will come out, they'll do an inspection, they'll provide you with information how to best combat your issues that you're having. A little bit more about mosquito fish. We do have a program. We actually rear mosquito fish at our office in Roseville, and we will take those out to standing water sources like ponds, water troughs, anything that's small and stagnant, and the mosquito fish will actually eat mosquito larvae off the tops of the water. So it's great. I know there are a lot of ponds here in Auburn, and this is a program that a lot of Auburn residents take advantage of. So West Nile virus. So we're early in the season. We are in May. We usually don't get our first West Nile virus positive mosquito sample until end of June, early July, even mid-July. Last year was somewhat of a mild year for West Nile virus in Placer County, but just a reminder, it is a disease spread by the bite of an infected mosquito. We don't find a lot of West Nile virus up here in Auburn, but we have in the past, and sometimes we do have positive mosquito pools here in Auburn, but there hasn't been a human case in a long time. There is no human vaccine or cure for West Nile virus, but there is a horse vaccine available, and a lot of Auburn residents do have horses. So it's important to make sure that your horse is vaccinated. Most cases are mild. A lot of people don't know that they have it, but 1 in 150 can be severe and sometimes fatal. We do countywide mosquito testing in the summer months. We start now and it goes all the way these days until end of October. We're doing testing for West Nile virus. So what used to be a pretty short mosquito season has now expanded into May and even all the way through October. Really important, but if you find a dead bird, you want to submit that dead bird for testing. That's the first sign that West Nile virus might be circulating in our county. Dead birds are where West Nile virus really comes from. So if a bird is infected with West Nile, the mosquito will bite the bird and then bite a person, and that's how the transmission cycle happens. The picture of a mosquito there is Culex tarsalis, and that's one of the main species of mosquitoes that transmits West Nile here in Placer. So this is a look at West Nile virus surveillance in the state right now. And since I submitted this presentation, there's actually been an additional dead bird, but not here in Placer County. So as of right now, just 9 positive dead birds in the state. Invasive Aedes. So these are the invasive mosquito that we've been finding in Placer County since 2019. They were first found in California in 2013. They're not supposed to be here, but they're thriving. And the issue with these mosquitoes is that they kind of bring a bunch of risks with them. They have the ability to transmit diseases like Zika, dengue, chikungunya, and yellow fever. Those are diseases that we haven't really experienced here in our county and throughout, California. We do have cases, travel-associated cases of these diseases every year throughout the state and even in Placer County. With the introduction of these mosquitoes and how quickly they're spreading, now we have increased risk of locally transmitted dengue, chikungunya, yellow fever, and Zika. So these mosquitoes, they thrive in urban areas. So unlike some of the other species of mosquitoes, these mosquitoes like to be around people in their backyards, and they need little amounts of water to develop. So we found them in 2019. We are finding them in a bunch of different neighborhoods. We have not found them in Auburn yet, thankfully. However, we are finding them nearby Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln, Granite Bay. And as of today, we have not found them yet this season. However, there are districts throughout the state who are detecting them already as early as last month. So those are pictures of some of the places that their eggs and then different life stages of the Aedes aegypti mosquito has been found. oh, let me go back. So this is a look at, oh my goodness, bear with me. There we go. Of what we found last year in terms of the invasive Aedes mosquitoes. So we did 9 months of surveillance. So we set specific traps aimed at catching female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. And we're looking to capture female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes because those are the only type of mosquitoes that bite. Male mosquitoes don't bite, just the females. We did 9 months of surveillance. We had 500 trap sites looking to catch these mosquitoes. We caught over 51,000, but 692 of those mosquitoes were Aedes aegypti, which is a lot of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. We found them in 19 different neighborhoods. 15 of those 19 neighborhoods were new in 2024 compared to 2023. And then we did 1,056 property inspections. So our technicians are going door to door, doing backyard inspections, looking for these mosquitoes, because in the past and actually throughout the state, most of the time different districts are able to find kind of ground zero where the development of those mosquitoes is happening. And a lot of times it's in unmaintained backyards with lots of different holding tanks. So like flower pots and flower saucers and other things, kiddie pools that can hold stuff, hold water, even tiny amounts of water. Out of those properties that were inspected, there were 25 locations with mosquito larvae, and then we did 46 wide area larvicide treatment trying to knock down those Aedes aegypti larvae in those different neighborhoods. So again, those numbers aren't great. This is a huge undertaking for our district. So before 2019, we were mainly concerned with West Nile virus, and we would assist with yellow jacket work and even some rodent work assisting the California Department of Public Health. Invasive Aedes aegypti brings a whole new level of work for our district. That's why we're hiring multiple seasonal employees to help us in the summer months. So most important takeaway from all this mosquito talk is protecting yourself from the diseases that they spread. It's really a shared responsibility amongst our district who's doing the testing and figuring out what's happening with these mosquitoes and making treatments as needed. But we also need the public to work and prevent these mosquitoes from biting them. So really important, dumping and draining standing water. That's going to do your best at protecting you from Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, using EPA registered repellent to protect yourself from bites, making sure screens on doors and windows are in good condition. And then for any questions, our district is here as a resource to the public. If they have questions, they need help around their home, we're here for them to reach out through phone, email, social media, whichever way works best for them. That's all I have for you. I am open to taking questions.
Thank you for your presentation. And before I open it up, I do want to say a big thank you to Sandy Bendorf there. She's our representative. She goes once a month on Mondays, and we really appreciate your standing in for us. Yeah, I'm going to open it up for questions. I have a couple though.
Yeah.
So in terms of the line tip, did you say you go to schools and tell the kids how to protect themselves? Because today I saw a kid he was in shorts going through tall grass, and I think that's not good. Right?
We do. We go to schools in a couple different ways. One of our main ways is that we have a rotating school assembly that we do throughout the county. We try to go to a school in each of the cities, the county at large, and then the town of Loomis every year. And we have about an hour-long school assembly that's very engaging, that's trying to get those messages out to the kids. We've been doing that for well over 12 years. The school assembly program, and it's done wonders for our district in getting the messages to kids, and we're continuing that on. We also have an online website. It's placermosquitolearninglab.org that has a lot of educational information for teachers and also students where they can learn more about how to protect themselves and the different bugs that we have in Placer County.
Great. So you hit the Auburn schools as well?
We do. We've been to a few. I can't name them all off from the top of my head, but we've been out there, and we continue to go and try to make sure that we're coming to Auburn.
Okay. And just briefly, ticks can land on your head too. Should you wear a hat?
They could land on your head. We're more concerned with them hitching a ride from from plants that you're passing or grass that you're passing. They kind of wait on the tips of grass until you pass by, and they'll hop onto your dog or onto your clothes and then try to find a way to your skin. But head, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. And
It's possible.
Can a tick that's infested with Lyme, can it go from the dog to the person?
Oh, definitely. Yes. So you want to inspect your pets too for ticks that they have on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then last question, the invasive mosquito.
Yes.
So is there anything you can put on besides DEET that maybe something more natural?
Yeah, one of the more natural repellent types that you can use is picaridin. A lot of times when we're doing outreach, we're kind of offering both options. DEET has been tested. It is safe to use, and it is going to do a really good job at protecting you from mosquito bites. Picaridin can also do the same. So oil of lemon eucalyptus also works, and then IR 3535. So it's really up to you and what you're comfortable with using. But DEET has been tested to be effective and safe. Sometimes people do get a little bit confused. DEET sometimes sounds like DDT. They are not the same thing. And so depending on your history and what you know, it can sound similar, but they're not the same. And DEET is safe to use. But if you'd like a more natural option, definitely look into picaridin or oil of lemon eucalyptus.
Thank you. Are there some questions from council? Okay.
First of all, thank you. This is
Yeah.
one of my favorite presentations. I think this is my third one I've seen, and
Okay,
I was
great.
excited to see it tonight. So, my question with the invasive ones is how
Yeah.
quickly do they lay their eggs? So like we got rain today. We always
Right.
try to go around and dump, but like what's the
Yes.
turnaround?
Very quickly. It could be 1 to 2 days. So it's a quick cycle for those mosquitoes, where other species, we have over 30 species here in Placer County, have a little bit of a longer cycle. The difference with invasive Aedes too, that's kind of important, is they can't fly as far as some of the other species of mosquitoes can from their development site. So that's why they kind of are a container breeder. They're a backyard mosquito.
Great. And when you dump them out, that's good. Like the eggs are not going to fester in the rocks or.
Well, that's something that there's still a lot of research being done, because these mosquitoes are somewhat hard to manage and hard to understand because they're surviving in Shasta. So it's pretty crazy. But you want to get rid of that standing water completely, and you even want to scrub. And that isn't a message we've been putting out there a lot, but there have been cases of these mosquitoes laying their eggs. The water dissolves and it gets refilled, and those eggs are able to hatch out. So yes, it's a pretty interesting mosquito in a lot of ways. So yeah, getting rid of standing water completely, scrubbing out your pots and what you have will help.
Thank you. And then one more, and
Yeah.
this was something I had asked Menjel. I'd sent him a message the other day about these things in the community that have standing water. Should we
Yes.
tell people to go straight to you, or like what's the
Definitely.
best route?
You can always submit any standing water that's found throughout the county through our website, placermosquito.org/report. Our technicians will come out and inspect it, even if it's something that has to do with Public Works or whatever department it might have to do with. Our technicians could come out and take a look and make sure that there's no mosquito development happening.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? And from the public? Well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate your
Great to see you all.
presentation. Okay, and the next item is the hotel feasibility study presentation. Jonathan?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Jonathan Wright, Community and Economic Development Director. Tonight, we have a very exciting topic. The city has a very challenging financial future. As most people know, we have to be on task looking at opportunities to increase our economic portfolio. We're always on the lookout as city staff, and one marketing gap became very apparent. And that is that we need more transient lodging in Auburn, specifically looking at around the historic Auburn districts. We have epic events here. We got downtown, we have Old Town here that are going to tell you about all the things they do. They bring lots of people to this community, and and lots of people come to our fairgrounds or recreate in the Auburn Recreation Area, or just come play in this one-of-a-kind place. Yet once they're done playing here, we only have 2 hotels. So after those events are done, they're going to Bowman, they're going to North Auburn, or they're going down the hill, which means we're losing those restaurant reservations. We're losing the foot traffic that the businesses could otherwise benefit from in trying to really capture them here. And, we're also losing that TOT tax that we're trying to capture. So this market gap was so obvious that we've actually had a number of people come to us and go, we would like to do something like this, yet none of those opportunities have yet materialized. So we're taking the next step now and moving this thing forward ourselves. So on July 11th, 2024, we released a request for proposals for the market feasibility study. We specifically said the city is very interested in researching the possibility of a boutique hotel to help drive tourism to historic Auburn and provide enthusiasts of the Auburn recreation area, as well as travelers with a uniquely Auburn experience. We received, I think, approximately 9 responses to those. Different responses from different types of agencies. Some of them were economic based, which is great. I mean, I'm sure they could do a feasibility study, but we wanted somebody that would come out, look at what we have as a community, and really be able to latch on to the benefit of having a hotel in Auburn. And you couldn't do that if you're just an economist. So we looked at those that really were tied in and did 100% hotel feasibility and worked in the hotel industry. And PKF came to the top of the list for a couple different reasons. One, they're a known commodity in the region. The previous city manager actually had very good success with them getting the Winters Hotel, which many people remember that. And PKF was the one that spearheaded that process. So if they can do it for Winters, Auburn's got a really good shot. Sorry. So tonight we have Channing Henry, who's managing director of PKF's operations in the U.S., to share their findings. And I want to just explain real quick. You're going to see 2 different scenarios. We wanted to look at what an infill scenario would look like. So we kind of tried to pick a really ideal location for that. It doesn't mean that's the end all be all. That just means that location was what we used to test this. This theory could be used for other infill sites anywhere, and it would still apply across the board. And then we also looked at existing facilities, which we don't have a lot of buildings that would be large enough to really be a hotel. But we had one that was called the Auburn Hotel, so I kind of latched onto that one, and then they ran with those. So Channing, it's up to you now. And she's in
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. And it's really been a pleasure getting to know Auburn. I'm in a hotel room. I'm not sure if I'm on video, but this is where we do our best work, is checking out so many different locations and really getting a sense of what makes them tick. And no pun intended from the previous discussion. Anyways, we found so much charm in Auburn, and I lived in Los Angeles for a long time. I developed a number of hotels there. The last one is the Proper Hotel in downtown LA. We've got a strong team in California that has really loved all of the evolutions, and so many people that go ski in Tahoe all the time have said, wow, Auburn is absolutely wonderful. We love stopping there for dinner. And have expressed the sentiment that they would love to stay overnight, and they just really honestly need a bit of a compelling hotel destination in order to do that. And so we were thrilled to work with Jonathan and take a look at the market study, the market general kind of aspects. As you all know, everything has evolved since COVID. There has been so much, shifting and remote work and availability, and a real sort of open-mindedness to embrace different days, different seasons in a lot of different capacities. And so we've seen a lot of growth outside of the metropolitan statistical areas, and are excited to share with you some thoughts. So do you have the presentation up, or should I?
If you can screen share so that you can ultimately have control over it, that works for us.
Okay.
might be having an issue with it. Wait a minute.
I can pull it up as well if needed.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's what we should do. Hmm. Let me see. Okay. Great. Well, let me just give a very quick background on PKF Hospitality. We're, I think, 50-year-old company in the hotel advisory business. I went to business school and immediately got into the real estate development realm and realized that hospitality is a game changer for so many communities and so many places. And so I've been in that field myself from mostly development side, and then for the last 6 years, leading the Americas office for our Vienna, Austria headquartered business. So we've got about 100 consultants across the country or across the world, and we've done a lot of nature-based hospitality, convention center-based hospitality, universities. We look at a lot of different emerging communities and cities and work with what are the gaps in the market, and really enjoy helping developers and landowners and public entities identify what it is that they're seeking from the hospitality uses and what some of the components are that really need to come together to make that happen. So importantly, we really don't just kind of paint a rosy picture. We really like to work within the confines of today's capital markets and the cost of capital and the cost of construction and all of the different trends that are happening with investment. So that's the context that we bring this to. You've got a strong recreation area, 900,000 visitors each year just to the state recreation area. Travel and tourism generated $1.5 billion in 2019, and it continues to grow. And we're looking at hotel taxes in Placer County of 28.9 million this year, which is very strong and certainly something that we want to replicate. A lot of the trends that we look at that we have seen certainly grow over the years and again since COVID, when everybody really appreciated a return to the outdoors. A lot of adventure, certainly corporate retreats when you've got a lot of remote workers, they like to come together in certain places that create some very successful meeting of the minds. Your endurance capital of the world, heritage. There is a lot of getting out into transformative travel, experiential travel. Families are doing this a lot together. People are looking for their personal bests and all of these different, almost biohacking aspects in a lot of ways. And you all are certainly the backyard to a lot of what's going on in the Bay Area with that. And then for those of us who are not biohacking, we love the food and wine, and you have so much beautiful country and territory up there that has been growing. And we really appreciated speaking with the head of the Wine Association and all of the efforts that are happening there. And there really is also a return to some history and some charming small towns. And so among all of the travel trends that we looked at, these are the ones that really resonate with what you all can offer. Let's move to the next slide. Where we see the strong opportunity is not just business or leisure or something specialized. You all have the chance to offer the long weekend travel. Again, the things that we just mentioned, but also incredibly growing culinary scene and some exciting new projects that are, you know, the games and the gathering people around playing ping pong and pool and the fairgrounds that really have such a strong history of bringing in music and attracting wonderful events. So there's so much leisure to lean into. And we heard numerous times, obviously, it's sort of the stronger and bigger market to know that the 2 to 4 day weekend getaway is very viable. But also capturing Sacramento, you know, and even the Tahoe residents that want to come in and creating that getaway that is below the clouds, above the snow line, below the snow line, above the clouds, so that you've got this really wonderful positioning to have just a very easy weekend. Business, there is some business certainly in the area. Where we think it's really exciting is the digital nomad remote worker as well. And so those that are coming in and need a good hotel that might be a little more exciting than the Holiday Inn or the Spring Hill Suites, would love to offer that. And for those that want to come and ride their bikes, go running, but also stay and work, we think that that is a very strong opportunity. Finally, on the next slide is the endurance and the outdoor recreation activity. And this really is something incredibly special along the lines of Boulder, Colorado. You know, with all of the athletes that come, we really think that this is something that should not be just handled by the Airbnbs that are available, but that you can create a community gathering hotel place that has recovery leg compression beds and blenders in the room so that protein shakes can be made, and that you can work with all the various powers that be to create more and more events that really establish this identity that really is very much there, but add more events to it, and then, you know, provide the infrastructure necessary behind it. So we provide some case studies of the economic impact that have come from the Chicago and the Boston marathons, the Sea Otter Classic in Monterey, and really the identity that helped Boulder become eventually a magnet for a lot of private wealth investment and private equity based on being one of those perfect live, work, lifestyle kind of cities. So let's keep moving. Willingness to pay is very strong. You've got a lot of high net worth individuals in the county and obviously the surrounding Bay Area. A lot of movement there to the extent that, you know, housing issues are the same with you all as they are in so many other places. There's this graph that basically shows the green leisure in Placer County, that light green line. If you compare that to those in Auburn, Auburn is much more interested in putting their dollars in the higher end, whereas more broadly in Placer County, it's in the mid-scale level. So those that are coming to Auburn are much more interested in the upper upscale and the upper mid-scale hotel category. Compare that to your supply. And again, no knocking on the hotels that are supplying this, but they've been built to cater to almost a pass-through, you know, traffic kind of segment, as opposed to creating a real sense of destination. So everything that we've worked with Jonathan and everyone we've interviewed in the city about this is Auburn is a destination and it deserves a place that is defining itself as such from the hotel perspective. Same thing of what we've said. We also noticed that there really are some, you know, significant short-term rental, 239 total listings They get good occupancy, but their rate of $131 is on the lower end, certainly below what the hotels are charging. And the majority of them at 47%, that big blue line, are just one bedrooms. So you're not necessarily getting a lot of people looking to fill a family household, but people that are really just looking for the supply that they want. Moving on. These are just some fun ideas of what we thought would work. There's a number of creative boutique hotels in beautiful settings that have an athletic bent to them and that really don't break the bank on a construction cost perspective, but offer a lot of personality and a lot of real identity, which helps when a hotel is coming out into the market and gaining traction and positioning itself. The Trailborn in the Rocky Mountains is really about this kind of hiking, biking, running. We thought that was interesting. Let's move on. The National Exchange down the road in Nevada City, a lot of fun, a lot of cultural heritage and fun bar and great design, small key count at 38 keys. And that is kind of hard to do and very specialized. And we can talk about that at the end of, our description of the couple of opportunities here, but a winning concept and one that does very well on rate and gets most of its traffic on the weekends, but does a good job of trying to bring in as much midweek traffic as possible. The McMenamins Hotel in McMinnville, Oregon, in wine country is very creative, has a lot going on, wonderful rooftop areas of exploration and moments of discovery throughout the property. And there is every incentive, I think, for a hotel with some unique character in Auburn to take on that challenge to create moments everywhere, because there's so much history and so much architectural uniqueness that can be relied upon to continue the tradition of the gold rush history and everything that has come forward since then. So that's a good one to take a look at. And I think our last one, oh no, those are top 3 that we decided to pull out, but we've got a lot more in the public file that you all have. I wanted to highlight some of the rates. These are kind of tight rates. These are not the ultimate rates that you find at the end of a hotel's reporting. This is what are the rack rates that are published online. So as you can see, we really weren't, overextending in terms of saying we're going to try to be luxury here. We're looking at weekend rates and high end at $500 at the National Exchange. But ultimately, if you're mixing the weekday and the weekend, we're really coming in at a comfortable mid 200 to mid 300 level. The Citizen Hotel was mentioned quite a bit in Sacramento as a really neat conversion that has turned out to be an exciting hub for the city. And we really like to see the range of their rates as well. Used those as a guide. Across the board, these are just some of those high level findings from internet searches. And then we get into some of the actual next page performance of some California hotels in Nevada that we thought were very relevant and positioned in the way that we think the Auburn Hotel could be positioned. And so what we do when we order an STR comp set is pay for data that is historical data that tells you exactly what these hotels did in terms of occupancy and rate. And that serves as a very strong guide for us. So these are the National Exchange and the Holbrook nearby, 2 hotels in South Lake Tahoe, the Coachman and the Black Bear Lodge, the new Gravity House in Truckee, and then over in Yosemite, the Pines Resort on Bass Lake, which is older, but still performs well and has a lot of amenities. And the new Auto Camp Yosemite, which has fewer amenities, but because it's very connected to nature and is the Airstream trailer cool concept that has done very well in the last 8 years, commands very high rate. So not too high that we felt like we needed to exclude it, but an interesting case study. So on the next page we see, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of data, but on this occupancy graph up above, our 2024 average occupancy was 57.8%. If you can see in there, you get some low years, low months in February, well, January, February, March, starts to climb up in April. Obviously, you have your very strong high points through summer, and it tapers off again for November, December. So you all will have better occupancy than this if we've got the right mix, but given your temperate climate, you have greater seasonality and really would need to focus on how you capture that traveler and not worry about the high and the low seasons, but make sure that you're creating that destination. Same thing on rate. Sorry, just on the page before. There's a nice mix that goes up on the 2024 numbers from 200 or 187 in November all the way up to 319 in July. And so again, nothing is overextending too much. This is meant to be a very welcoming concept, and there's always ways to improve upon the rate and also to increase revenues on the property with other amenities. So just kind of a check-in on the next page where we feel there are a lot of things to work with in this hotel opportunity. Really getting into the wellness. This is something that we see up and down and across the world where we work, that something that really isn't just kind of dialing it in with an okay sauna or hot tub and, you know, a not really special spa situation, that you can really define yourselves and help all of these athletes that are coming to your area experience the wellness that they're really seeking. Being able to define a positioning that is very clearly not the mid-scale lodging that exists. I think it's a low bar to surpass. And again, not knocking the positioning and the opportunity that those hotels have provided the community, there really can be a lot more energy that is created in a hotel that seeks this type of positioning. So we are targeting rates much higher than the ADRs that we've seen in the area. We really would love to program into the space diverse revenue streams such as events, weddings, outdoor movies that show, you know, endurance running, wine tastings, the post-concert gathering back at the hotel, just all kinds of additional ways to activate the property. And then really getting into the community and looking at the vineyards and all of the various art galleries that are in the community and really just connecting. So that's a beautiful thing that hotels are able to do. Let's keep going. So as Jonathan mentioned, the first opportunity that we looked at is this beautiful old promenade building, currently an office building with about 20 different office suites. It has some wonderful, unique design aspects, the courtyards, the location on the main street or on Lincoln Way, the beautiful fountains, the kind of intricate spaces. We think it's a great building and it has all of the history. It has some really wonderful rooftop spaces. It will require some some real renovation getting in there, adding bathrooms to all the suites. There's not an elevator there, but some very good renovation of the stairways and all of the hallways and the systems that are inside. So it is a very good existing canvas to work with. And there are some developers that would be thrilled to take some beautiful bones and work with that. If we go to the next page, very high level numbers. We really were getting 25 keys, hotel rooms out of this, and some of them are much larger, some of them are smaller. Because of all of that, and because the capacity to really create a little bit more living room space, possibly kitchenettes, we put the rate at a higher rate than what a more traditional hotel would be. And so if you look in year 4, we're at about 580 and 63%. Again, only on 25 hotel keys. And we kind of have to be at that price, I think, in order to really make a property like that work. We've got strong revenues from the food and beverage. Some of that is meeting space usage. Some of that is real just the restaurant that's there and bringing that back to life. And then you've got a very light staff, but some operations such as retail on site, and minor operated departments are things like laundry and car service, etc. So limited revenue, but coming in at about 6.5 million in that stabilized year once you're up and operating year 4. And with all of the associated costs coming out of it, ending up at about 1.5 million and EBITDA on, and that would be a very good performance return. So that is something very viable, and it would take the right developer with effectively mostly cash instead of construction financing to just pull this together and say we're gonna revive this, and we're gonna be the centerpiece of the center of town. The next opportunity is an assemblage in front of the courthouse, which Jonathan can give you more details on, but some sites that really are unutilized and ready for sale, hopefully. And so I think this would be something that could create a really unique parcel that connects that main part of town down to the restaurant courthouse area and gives you a little bit more blank slate to work with. So what we have determined, and the very detailed numbers on the next page here. Oh, well, here's the site assemblage. Please feel free to ask if anybody needs descriptions on the land. But we thought that 80 hotel keys, and honestly, you could go up to 100, would do well in the $400 range. And that we could have more food and beverage, and certainly more banquets and conferences and catering. You can have a lot of wellness retreats. You can build a nice big swimming pool and do events around that. You can have a spa and a little bit more juice in those numbers from the spa, and as well retail. We even baked in some commissions here, which basically are the hotel connecting visitors to the bike rental operators in town and the wine tourism operators in town, and really creating a flow of leisure guests that are going out there and getting into the community. And so that would be a small commission business off of that. So ultimately, that would yield around 4 million in EBITDA. And assuming some cost of construction that and financing terms that we consider very market, at 26% IRR, and an opportunity to bring in some institutional capital for this. So a different profile of deal. And then I think that's it for now. I'd love to take questions.
Thank you very much. I will turn this over to the council for questions. Anybody have some questions?
I do.
Okay.
So
Councilwoman.
thank you very much for the report. I know we've been waiting for this for quite some time and I appreciate, all of the details. I spent time early this morning going through the feasibility study document itself. So very interesting. And really what I wonder, just a couple of things. First is that I appreciate the two sites that you would identify, the promenade and the courthouse, adjacent to the courthouse. And one thing is that that's not new, I guess, because I know we actually had somebody look at across the street from the courthouse, and I've heard about the promenade also. I wonder, I know that you looked everywhere. There's the liquor outlet that's up there on the hill, and I wondered if you had thought about that. I mean, that was there was a hotel there at, historically. So I just kind of wondered, if there was a reasons why you only picked the two sites. I obviously they're great because they're downtown and so forth, but I just like I said, there's the liquor outlet. I mean, your analysis is not based on willing owner, because clearly the promenade is owned and it's used for offices, and then the other location, there's actually 4 different businesses located. So just kind of wondering about that.
And I can answer that if you'd like. So
Sure.
we only had a certain amount of money in this to be able to do, we couldn't afford to do multiple, many different locations.
Oh, okay.
And we did look at it. I mean, again, these are scalable numbers, and we're looking at kind of that sweet spot. So if we can replicate that in another place in town on an infill site, then those numbers would then transfer. The idea is to show the investors that we have viable opportunities in Auburn, and then get them in and start talking about what those are. We did go off of the fact that we did have willing participants at one point for that row of properties. In fact, one reaches out to me quite frequently wondering if anything's happening. So we know there's interest there by those landowners potentially. So that's why we went with that, so we could go with the target that we had available. But it does transfer, just about anywhere. And looking at like the promenade, which is one of our unique opportunities, if there was something like similar to that in town, we could then transfer that over, but we really don't have a lot. But the renovation costs, things like that would be very similar.
Yeah. I love the data, and I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of detail. So, I presume then, this is what's used to go after, hotels. And is that something that the city of Auburn would do, or is that something that you do, or we do together? I mean, this is a great package to show, potential hotelers, or I don't know what they're, hoteliers, or, this is why Auburn works. And, these are the kinds of boutique hotels and really, focused on the outdoors and things of that nature. But I just kind of wonder what's the next step? Now we've got this phenomenal study.
Right. And we knew we could take it and just go run out there and try to find investors. But talking to PKF, it's like, so what are those next steps?
Yeah.
And really regrouping, figuring out where those dollars lie that we really want to entice in, and get those packages in front of them, have it, really professionally marketed, and bring those people to us.
So we would work together with PKF on those kinds
potentially
of
we
things?
put some marketing dollars in my budget for the next fiscal year to see if we couldn't do that. So.
Because, I was also very surprised. I was not aware that there were the 2 hotels that are proposed for North Auburn. I didn't know about them. And I'm kind of sad that we didn't have an opportunity to, they're a little different. They're not the boutique. I've always talked about a boutique hotel. That's something that I've wanted to have here for years. And so they have a different kind of a mission, if you will, sort of the extended stay and what have you. But that was very interesting to hear about that. And then we have like the Powers Mansion Inn. Who knows what's going to happen there? But
still working.
Well,
are you done with questions?
Yeah, I guess for right now. Yeah.
Okay. Mayor or Vice Mayor Davis, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I just want to say thank you, and that it reiterates the impact that all the races and everything could have in the community. So thank you for doing this, and thank you so much.
And I would echo what Councilwoman Dowden Cavillo said, is that this is very an important step for us, but I think the next step is even more important. We've been wanting to do this and have hotels come, be a part of our town, because we do have a lot of opportunity here. We have many events and races, and I think we have all been saying that, we wish the people can stay in our town so that the businesses can profit from that. So yeah, I hope that the next step, that this proves fruitful so that, we can go the next step. But I appreciate the work that's done here. And I'm hoping that, again, we can all work together. And like you said, maybe if we have a little extra money, we can market it and get some real interest. Because I think in the long run, that would pay off. If we spend a little money, maybe we can make some money, because we do have the TOT now. And also it's attractive for our city, and it also helps our residents and our businesses. So.
Yeah, I mean, the people are directly, they're here for a couple days spending money, and so I think it's really important that we continue to pursue this. I feel very important. Very
Councilman Holmes, did you want to say something?
Yes, I'd like to know what your definition of a boutique hotel is.
Well, it's debatable, but the general acceptance is that the brand standards are not what defines the property. The programming and the location define the property in a boutique. So there's more freedom to very specifically target the needs of your guests and the community.
All right, thank you.
And anyone from the public want to have any input on this? Okay, then this was for just for
Informational purposes. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. And
But there'll be
thank you very much.
something in the budget you're thinking, your proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
So the next item will be the intention to levy annual assessment fee for business improvement districts.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Gretchen Johnson, your finance director with the city. So the item before you is the annual action of the intent to levy business improvement district assessment fees. The fees support both the downtown business district and the Old Town Auburn business district. The fees remain the same year over year with no proposed changes. If approved, the next step in the process will be a public hearing currently scheduled for June 9th, where all interested parties for or against the fees may produce their comments. Tonight's notice of intent includes the required annual report to be presented by each business district representative. And so I will ask that the Old Town Business Association go first, followed by the Downtown Business Association.
Thank you very much.
Hello. I've never done this before, so sorry.
What is your name?
I'm Kat Ike. I own Lady of the Canyon Vintage in Old Town.
Great. Thank you.
So do I start off with what we've been doing this past year?
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
So this year it felt like we got a lot accomplished. The first thing that we worked on was beautification, and we hired local electrician Turner Electric to do lights on the borders of all of our buildings to brighten it up and make it look more inviting, especially right off the freeway. You can see it a lot better now. In that same time, it was right before Christmas, so we decided to add electrical outlets to the light poles so that our wreaths could light up, and we can also have more power for the events to have more opportunities. So that was a big deal. The next thing that we did that I don't think I even put on my paper was that we provided social media platform that promotes for the community events and showcases small businesses. We first started off by hiring Matt Eversole to start on the Old Town Auburn page. And then we decided why not bridge the gap between downtown and Old Town, and let's focus on merging and having one source of contact, one source for events. And the Explore Auburn page already had 13,000 followers. So we thought, why not use that, get back onto that. And now we're at 14,000. Yes. So it's been working really well.
Great.
And the businesses seem to be really happy with what Matt's doing. And I think the biggest thing that we're pleased with is that we're working with downtown and we're all working together.
Bravo.
Thanks. It feels good. Yeah. We're looking forward to doing more of that next year also. Also this year, the events have been more focused on community, and then we're adding historical reenactments because Carol made it apparent that we are lacking in that area. So yeah, that's what we've been doing and what we're up to.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just something happening on Thursday.
Oh, the co-op is this Thursday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
5 to 9 in Old Town. And then next month we'll be in downtown.
Oh,
Oh,
So
so
we're-
every other month you're gonna alternate then?
We are.
Oh, excellent.
Hopefully we're getting that across clearly, but that's what Matt is for. That's what
Good.
he's helping us with.
and any questions here?
I just want to say the social media is looking really good.
Thanks. Yeah, he's doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment. And I know we're going to hear from downtown as well, but I really want to reiterate how important it is for these associations to work together and how pleased I am to see that. You know, when I first got on city council back in 1998, we worked so diligently. We had a Historic Auburn Business Alliance trying to bring everyone together. And it's something that we've been trying to do for decades and decades and decades. And I'm just so pleased to see the associations working together because we are Auburn.
Exactly.
We're not against each other. One succeeds, we all succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm just incredibly pleased to see that everyone seems to understand that and grasp that and own that. And it makes it easier for the city too. Because, you know, we don't have to say, well, we're going to help this and not, you know, so anyway, thank you so very much for that, really. And to downtown as well. Just, I'm incredibly impressed because it has been an effort for decades. Some of you know this. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was just gonna say real fast. I also appreciate the co-marketing and the branding stuff too, because there's a lot of different things happening in Auburn and it's hard to keep track of everything. And so seeing the co-op marketing where it was like, here's all the events and these are the ones in Old Town and these ones downtown at the same spot, it just makes everyone's lives so much easier. And it
Yes.
makes it so we can just have one thing versus having to look at lots of different things to kind of keep track. So we really appreciate all of that too. It just makes it easier and makes it so everyone can make sure that they go to things and they don't have to keep track.
That's right.
Yeah, the community and visitors
Yeah.
can now see it clearly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the downtown.
Hi, I'm Lisa Henderson, Loper's Jewelers, Downtown Business Association. I'm going to start with exactly what we're talking about, working with the city and Old Town to promote everything Auburn, everything historic Auburn. So that's number one for us this year.
Great. So happy.
Yay. Other items that we're working on is the downtown beautifications, planting new trees, flowers. Our lovely mayor had the wheelbarrow a couple weeks ago across Lincoln Way. Our fall decor, lighting up the clock tower, our winter decor, continuing to bring music to our downtown area. Looking forward to our co-op in July and August and our fall festival in October. Any questions?
Keep up the great work.
Yeah, thank you. It's looking beautiful.
Thank you. we'll be back next month.
Yes.
And you're going to be lighting the clock tower, right? Yes.
Oh, that's going to be so exciting.
Great. Okay, so I need a resolution here, or we will receive the presentation, so I need a resolution.
I'll move by resolution that we approve the intention to levy an annual assessment fee for both districts for the fiscal year 25-26 and to set a public hearing date of June 9th, 2029 to review the proposed fees.
Second.
Roll call, Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
Mayor Amara.
Aye, thank you very much. That passes, and thank you for your presentation. Number 10, the fiscal year 2025, excuse me, 2024-2025 quarter 3 financial update and financial management policy update.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. I am Gretchen Johnson, your finance director, and I am presenting your third quarter update. So again, the purpose of these quarterly updates are for a lot of good things. It's definitely has some fiscal transparency, showing that we're monitoring revenues and expenditures, provides an excellent time to give an updated year-end projection of where we're at with either a surplus or deficit in our general fund. And to communicate this time is to communicate the status of our upcoming budget development for fiscal year 25-26. And then a special item this time is to request an update to our existing financial management policy, which I'll tackle towards the end of the presentation. But a quick background on our current year budget for fiscal year 24-25 was adopted back in June at about 35.4 million. We had a first quarter budget adjustment to include some ARPA project expenditures, which bumped up the citywide budget to 36.6 million. And then another budget adjustment back in February when we did quarter 2, also known as the mid-year presentation, to factor in an update based on 6 months of trending with revenues and expenditures. Tonight for the quarter 3, not recommending any further budget adjustments at this point. So we're sticking at the 38.2, almost 0.2 million for the citywide budget. The focus of these quarterly updates is typically on the general fund, so I'm going to stick with that for this presentation and focus on the general fund, which is at a budget of just shy of $21.2 million. And we're looking at, as of this update, a continued surplus, about $446,604. So back at the mid-year projection, we did have a surplus called out of 453,000. So we're down a little bit, but it's so close. There's really no cause for concern. It's just due to updating our projections and having more pay periods that have gone by, more time to evaluate actual revenues and expenditures being received. Departments at this point in the general fund, we're about 75% through the year. So they should have at least 25% remaining in their budgets to spend, assuming a straight line approach to all of the expenditures. There's certainly some one-time costs like for upfront insurance payments or capital projects that are paid more on a lump sum basis, and that can skew the percentages a little bit when you're trying to straight line. But some of our critical function areas are spending more than anticipated, but that's offset by savings in other areas. So that's why we're continuing to see the surplus. This is just a copy of a budget report that's in your packet. All of the financial reports for the third quarter are in your packet, citywide, and also focus on the general fund. I've highlighted some of the departments in blue that are showing less than that 25%. On the far right column is the percent remaining. So you'll see like we have city attorney insurance programs. That's due to some general liability and workers' comp policies that were a little bit more than we anticipated in the budget. We did have a citywide property appraisal completed, and that bumped up some of our insurance costs. And then in police, this isn't necessarily cause for concern being under the 25% remaining or close to it, but it's, they had some one-time grant funded vehicles and things of that nature that kind of skew the numbers a little bit earlier in the year. Building maintenance is the place where some of the repair items hit. So we had to replace a generator, had to do some unexpected repairs, and that's why we're showing a little less at about 11% remaining in that budget. Same thing with stormwater and public works. What's going on? That was not me. Okay. Okay, so moving on to our infamous historical and forecast multi-year for the general fund. You can see right in the middle is what I've been talking about is the continued surplus that we're seeing of $446,000. And looking out into future years, we're still in the range communicated at the mid-year between $450,000 and $550,000 year over year. And note that that is absent any changes to our personnel costs that we currently have at this point. Departments at this point, so now let's shift to talking about the development of the upcoming fiscal year. So the next column over, fiscal year 25-26. As submitted, departments have turned in all of their budget requests. We've gone through and reviewed them, and we've drafted a good idea of where we're going to be with the upcoming proposed budget. We're seeing a continued surplus, with all of that being said, of $450,336. That's down a little bit from our mid-year financial update for the estimated surplus, but that is because departments have submitted some costs that we've deemed critical, such as some safety equipment repairs to the end of some useful life of some of our equipment, street and building repairs, again, storm drains, et cetera. Kind of the same thing that we're seeing for unanticipated costs, we're trying to actually factor into the budget. So we're down a little bit from mid-year for what we thought the new budget year was going to look like, but we're still in the good zone of having a continued surplus. Fiscal year 25-26 is the first year that we're utilizing the new budget software, ClearGov. So this slide and a couple of slides to follow are to show what the new reports and the final budget publication, once the city council adopts it, will look like. So it's kind of nice in that it shows a couple of years of previous activity, the current budget, and then the proposed budget. And this is an expenditure chart. So you can see kind of the super high level what's going on for the general fund specific to this slide. So our personnel costs, 11 million, about 59% of our budget. So it's just kind of a nice display of what we're looking at so far in terms of how the proposed budget's being drafted, as well as the history over the past couple of years. This slide is looking at our revenues, same type of depiction, just on the revenue side instead of the expenditures. Most of our revenue hits our non-departmental budget, which is that big blue $16 million. So that is property taxes, sales tax, TOT, the big revenues that aren't specific to individual departments. But what's nice now that we didn't have in history is we're able to see the revenues generated by other departments and how they add up in terms of the general fund, ranked in highest to lowest. This is the same information. It's just broken down by department. And has that little bit of history there. So again, these are just charts and graphs that you'll be able to see moving forward and as part of the budget book that gets published in the near term. So on June 9th, the proposed budget will come back to City Council and will include all of the funds for the city, the general fund, enterprise fund, special revenue funds, the work plans for our committees and commissions, include any general fund designations, the appropriation limits, and the citywide personnel allocation. So that Before I shift now to the financial management update policy, are there any budgetary questions or third quarter updates?
Any questions? Yes, Councilwoman Riddell Harris.
Thank you. I just wanted to verify a couple things. So you were saying this is existing staff, so this doesn't include any raises or cost of living adjustments or anything for staff at this point. That would be in addition to whatever, and it would impact the revenue that we would have.
Correct. So the surplus that you're seeing is available for those types of changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question is, does this incorporate any of the possibility of economic downturn or changes to our tax revenue or any of those kinds of things that may happen? Do we get information on what may happen? I know a lot of cities are kind of preparing for economic downturn.
It somewhat. It doesn't include, so we recently got an update from our sales tax consultant, HDL, and they're showing a slight decline under what we have here in our proposed budget. But if you'll recall, last year, the same thing had happened and we swung too far to the wrong way. So we're trying to kind of time it in terms of when we actually have more information. Like we're supposed to get more sales tax revenue in this month and next month. And then we'll really know, is the decline that HDL is estimating consistent with what we've already factored into the budget? Because we took a lot out of the budget this year, knowing that last year was a rough year. So I think we're going to be fine with what you're seeing here. I wouldn't put it forward if I felt there was a concern. But then again, looking out into the future, if there's going to be a decline or recession, no, this doesn't include any of those substantial decreases that could be coming.
Okay. And in the budgets, are they putting the budgets back to, because I know we did do a lot of carving things out to make sure that we were getting out of our deficit. Are the departments able to put back in the things that they think that they need into it yet? Or are they still kind of doing bare bones?
This is definitely a bare bones. There were some absolutely critical things that we needed to put in, whether it was safety equipment or whatnot, but this is bare bones.
Okay, thank you. Last question is, how is the city manager making us money? I saw there was like $3,000 of revenue coming from the city manager, and I'm just curious how he makes us money.
Well, we have moved in, so we have credit cards for the city. We have a Cal Card program. The policy came to your council last year for approval. We get rebates on the usage of those cards, so credit back.
Thank you for using credit cards.
Yes.
However, the cash back, when you're putting a tractor on, you're getting.
You could also look at it as the whole amount of revenue is being made by the city. Man, that's a good.
I was just curious. You had a little spot on the wedge. So thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. And you coming to us quarterly since we've been trying to make sure we're monitoring this closely. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're going to go on with the
I am. Yes. Okay, so this is the meat and potatoes here, and there is a resolution on this one. The city has a financial management policy. It was originally adopted July 10th, 2023, and that's prior to the current city manager and finance director's input. So I wanted to take a good look at that and make sure it was consistent, especially considering the lessons we've learned this past year. And does that policy still fit into the way we see ourselves now and moving forward into the future? So that policy that was adopted, it set our general fund reserves at 30% of estimated general fund expenditures. It established an economic contingency reserve of 40% of our estimated sales tax, included a few other reserves for our unfunded pension liability and unfunded employee liability, and then prepaid insurance, which I also, I consider that our self-insurance fund. It's not really prepaid, it's kind of on deposit with our self-insurance company, and that changes annually. So the policy was written during those perceived strong economic times. It focused on anticipating excess funds that we could put towards a capital improvement plan, competitive labor market, and it briefly described methods to replenish reserves, but really didn't get into the mechanics of that. So those were some areas that I wanted to focus on trying to improve as we move this forward for your consideration. So the updates to the policy, there's a more robust purpose to the policy and some administrative process. It's intended to, again, promote financial stability and long-term planning, adhere to the specifics of some accounting rules, specifically GASB 50 for fund balance reporting, identify appropriate levels of reserves with specific methods to replenish, and focus on priority being also, but not only, but also our employee pension and other post-employment benefits. Those are, very valuable items that we have that we want to protect and make sure that they're funded. So one of the things I wanted to do was evaluate what is the appropriate level of general fund reserves that we should have as a city. We're unique. We're not like everyone else, can't be put in a box. I landed at recommending 25% versus 30% of the budget. And there's a couple of reasons why for that. First and foremost, we have our Governing Finance Officers Association, which drives a lot of our helping us guide our decision-making and things on the accounting side. And again, it depends on the unique situation of the government. If you have a volatile revenue source, i.e. sales tax, which we do, maybe we ought to have a little bit more reserve than other entities. It should also not be less than 2 months of operating expenditures. And in our situation for the general fund, that's about 3 million. Debt agencies, if we want to issue debt, they like to see 15% of total discretionary revenues in our reserves. Lo and behold, that's also about 3 million. So it's kind of like, okay, I see a trend formulating here. So that drove the 25% recommendation, but it also, in doing that, freed up some funds that we have been setting aside in reserves previously based on the policy we have. And so freeing up and recategorizing those funds, the recommendation is also to add a general fund capital reserve with the goal of having that reserve 5% of estimated expenditures, but opening that balance at 500,000 is recommended. And there's a couple reasons why for that. So having a capital improvement plan, it could be a 10-year plan. It identifies building improvements, street improvements, stormwater infrastructure, even major equipment replacements for our general fund. We currently don't have a long-term prioritized plan for what types of projects we want to pursue and when and how they're going to be funded. So coming up with this capital improvement plan would help structure and help our decision making as we're moving forward with projects that we want to do. It could even include, when and how can we do bike paths? It's just a long-term plan that we don't currently have. And so it's trying to shift the focus of a lot of the reserves in the current policy are, they're liability based. Well, let's focus on how can we plan for the future and invest in our capital infrastructure. So that was driving that recommendation. The new policy also continues to recommend the economic contingency reserves. This is the one that will save our bacon if anything happens. So still recommending that to be 40% of estimated sales tax. That's about 3 million. So that made me comfortable in thinking, okay, that's the primary reserve. It's also in line with all of the best practices that we see in other entities, about the same amount. The recommendation maintains the employee unfunded liability reserve, and that is for one-time use as situations comes up related to employee payouts or just things that happen unexpectedly. So I think that's a good idea for now to keep intact. And then, of course, maintaining that self-insurance fund reserve as restricted. It's really not available. It's good to just have that set aside all the time. So the mechanism, if reserves fall below that 25% minimum balance, A very short list, but these are the lessons learned. You know, if that does fall below 25%, we would be able to identify and curtail non-essential spending on operational costs, implement a hiring freeze of non-essential vacancies, and utilize any unassigned fund balance, basically any savings we have in the general fund, to replenish those reserves as our first priority year over year. The recommendation is to eliminate the existing pension unfunded liability reserve of 1 million, but I have been formulating a return to council with a strong recommendation on what to do with that reserve. Right now, the million is part of our investments that we have in camp and LAIF and those things. There are other ways to maximize how we're going about funding our unfunded liability. So right now, the city has 2 debts for pension, one that was issued in 2006, one that was issued in 2021. We also have a third unfunded liability minimum payment we have to make every single year. The reason I'm bringing this forward right now is because when I'm looking at the actuarials that CalPERS is bringing forward, our costs go up quite a bit. So this year we're paying almost $400,000 on that unfunded liability minimum payment. Next year it's going to be 600,000, then the year after that 800,000. It's a lot. And so a couple of ideas to get our arms around that so it doesn't strangle us fiscally is, one, to use that 1 million and make a direct payment to that unfunded liability. Doing that, it's like making a payment against your principal loan balance, reducing your interest accumulating over the life of that obligation. So that would help. The savings associated with that could be over and above the interest returns that we could get out of the camp and LAIF investments. Another option is to pursue what's called an IRS Section 115 irrevocable trust, and that is a trust that allows you to earn a greater return on investment than the camp and LAIF funds because it's specific to pension and follows different governmental codes and what types of investments governments can do to maximize a higher rate of return. So looking at that, I want to bring back a recommendation on what we could do if you approve eliminating the reserve. So that frees up that funding. Other options could include that capital improvement plan, 10, 20-year plan, however big it needs to be to try to protect our capital investments. And then, of course, community and economic development opportunities. We've heard a little bit of that tonight, or a mixture of all those things. We could come up with what works best.
Specific on the pension side too, both of those ideas that Gretchen's talked about, I've done in different cities. Both different cities have done one or the other. So the idea of the trust fund, we did that in Coleman when I was there, and we funded it with a lot of money up front so we could get more on the interest on what we were accruing on LAIF, like by twice almost. And then in Loomis, we actually paid down the liability on the PERS side significantly to drop that payment. It's basically like she was saying, making an extra payment on your mortgage, right? Or 2 extra payments on your mortgage every year to decrease the overall time frame that you're paying. So we'll bring back that recommendation, one of those 2.
What would that amount be? We don't know.
The amount to invest in either of those options? Yeah. Well, the goal is to free up $1 million of the reserves that we have now. So that would be the initial investment maximum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is to free it up, but then use it to pay it. Okay.
Right.
If you think about it, I don't know what our LAIF rate is right now, but let's say it's like 5%, right? If we put it into a pension, into a trust fund that's earning 7%, we can take that 2% gap and then pay down additional for our UAL, for our unfunded liability. Or if we just take the full amount and just pay down the unfunded liability, you're still getting the same benefit. But if it's just sitting in LAIF or even camp and only earning the 5%, you're basically losing money because you're sitting on the money. So the idea is
there's no penalty for paying it down?
No. Okay, so here is a visual display of the numbers, which I thought might be helpful. Under our current policy, these are the council adopted general fund reserves in our current budget. So our economic uncertainties is 3.7 million. There's that pension unfunded liability of $1 million, employee unfunded at 500,000, and then our self-insurance fund. So that is 30% of our general fund expenditures right now. The economic uncertainties is higher than 40%. It's fine to be higher, but that's just kind of more support for being able to make an adjustment down total to the 25%. So then down below would be based on the drafted proposed budget, which we know is going to change a little bit before we get it back to council for approval, but those numbers would result in still a 40% of sales tax figure at just over 3.1 million. Take that 1 million for the pension reserve off the table. We would fund and open a capital reserve balance of 500,000. We'd keep our employee unfunded a little bit less, but still there and available at 430,000. And then our self-insurance fund, 700,000-ish is what we're estimating at this point. And a little bit left over, 13,000. But again, these numbers will shuffle depending on the finalized proposed budget numbers. That gets us to 25% of our total general fund expenditures at about 4.8 million in total reserves. Okay, so that rounds out the summary of the highlights of all of the changes to the financial management policy. So next steps would be to hear your comments and questions about that policy update, and then we'll continue to do our fiscal year-end projections, bring the budget back on June 9th and again on June 23rd for the final budget adoption, update our fiscal transparency website with all of the new information, and then return to council later in the fall with the preliminary year-end results of the current fiscal year. So questions?
I have a question. So the capital reserve that you're proposing, it's unrestricted then. It's whatever the council decides.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions from?
I'm sorry. I have a question about the capital reserve too. So I guess these are reserves that we're planning on keeping for specific purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But you were talking about the capital reserve around the capital improvement plan, but the goal wouldn't be to use that 500,000 every year on the capital improvement plan. The goal would be to keep it. Would it be there like in case there's an emergency capital improvement thing that we need to pay for? Is that the goal?
It's kind of both. Okay. So the 500, it depends on the length of your plan. So if you have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan and you determine, well, what do I need to replace? What do I want to do, need to do, useful life, et cetera, and you just use that as a funding source. Or if something major happens during the year that you need to fix, you can pull from that reserve and then adjust your capital improvement plan. But the goal was to have one funding source there that is replenished when we have the funds to do so when it's used over a long-term capital investment plan. But it's there for like any of these reserves. If council needs to direct use of those reserves for any reason, they can.
Okay, so this is in addition to or in place of having a capital improvement plan line item in the budget, or is this?
It would be in addition to.
In addition to. So there would be other things that would be funded through the budget, and then this would be their
reserve.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, remember too that right now we don't have anything. So
we need to.
Yeah.
I agree.
And so, like a 10-year plans, typically that's the time frame that you do. And then you have projects that are funded and then projects that are unfunded, right? We should be throwing everything that we need to do in that CIP. So that way, if it's in the CIP, we find a funding source, a grant or whatever, we can use the grant money for it. If it's not identified in a CIP, you can't use it. Can't get grants for that stuff. So we need to get that put together. Menjel's been working on it to kind of just corral everything that we have and all the different needs.
Okay. Storm drains, HVAC systems, those
Everything.
Kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buildings.
Solar.
I have a I just wanted to say that I really do appreciate that. I think that it's very important to keep that capital reserve because there are so many different things, things happen. Storm drains have problems. There are just so many different things. And so I'm very supportive of establishing that reserve. I think 500,000 is a good amount, given the kind of costs that these, unforeseen circumstances
I mean,
and
A 1915 building, I don't know how, our roof's not 100 years old, obviously, but if the roof collapses here right now, we have nowhere to pull money from to fix
That's right.
roof, right? So creating a fund where we can pull from if we need to, as Kelly's looking at it.
Yeah, no.
Thanks for falling there. But just to be safe, we need to have an additional pot of funding so we can pull stuff from if we need it.
Yeah, I think it's really smart. And I'm, very supportive of your proposals to, with regards to the reserves, adjusting them accordingly. I think it's important that we look at these kinds of policies from time to time. They do need to be adjusted from time to time. Things just ebb and flow and come up. So I'm very supportive of what you're proposing. And thank you very much for working so diligently on that to come up with sound numbers and numbers that are responsible as well. I think it's incredibly important for us to be prepared for, for anything. So thank you.
Any other questions? Public, have any questions on that? Then do I have a motion for a this is a resolution.
I move by resolution to approve the update to the city's financial management policy.
I'll second.
Roll call. Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes.
Aye.
And Mayor Amara.
Yes, that passes. Thank you very much. And is everybody okay to continue? I think we've been taking our breaks. Okay, so
Maybe after the fireworks. Can we use it?
the next one is the 4th of July fireworks event.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this item's before you sort of in a bit of a hurry, obviously, because we're getting close to this event. And I put it together on Wednesday. I've learned a little bit of additional information since when I put it together and put it in the packet. But so basically, cities obviously had some form of a fireworks show for quite a while, and obviously much longer than I've been around here. It was typically done, or at least in the past, it was done by the Chamber of Commerce. Before that, I believe that the city actually provided some sort of funding for the event, but the city's never actually held and run the fireworks event, right? It's always been done by the chamber or by some other nonprofit. Earlier this year, late last year, 2024, the chamber has made a decision, Chamber of Commerce has made a decision that they are no longer going to run the fireworks event for a host of different reasons, including just difficulty in staffing it, because most people want to be out with their families, not working at 110-degree weather, trying to make sure that other families have fun on the 4th of July and on the fireworks. So host of different reasons, the chamber's decided to not continue on with the fireworks. Since that time, since the chamber made that decision, I've been working with a local business owner to try to figure out if there's a way to salvage the fireworks show or not. Including discussions with the fairgrounds CEO. The fireworks are always held at the fairgrounds. It's the only area in the city limits that's actually approved by the state fire marshal to let fireworks off. There's nowhere else in the city that you can actually do that except for at the fireworks and specifically in the horse arena. So it's not like we can move them somewhere different. They need to happen at the fairgrounds. So fast forward, working, starting at the beginning of the year, basically January, to try to figure all this out, getting things pulled together. The business owner I've been talking to had an agreement, I believe, with the Downtown Business Association to bring forward the fireworks show, have the DBA do the contracting. But there's been snags with insurance being a major issue, and the inability to get insurance for a fireworks show like that. And then also the ability to fundraise and bring the funding together without creating, frankly, a tax implication for this person. So contracts needed to be signed for the event by May 1st. I was out ill, came back and found out that the contracts hadn't been signed. And so at this point, the insurance issue is the kind of like sticking point to make any of this work. I think the financial part, they could have figured out, but the insurance is really kind of a deal killer for the DBA, to the point where the fireworks show wouldn't be able to continue on at this point. And so working quickly on Wednesday morning, honestly, making phone calls with our risk management folks and with the fairground CEO, I kind of pulled together the idea that the city could be the contracting entity for the fireworks if council decides to do that. It's a policy decision, I think, for the council on whether or not you want to be the contracting entity to make the fireworks happen or not. The finance side of it, all in for the event would be about $21,000. That includes the cost of the fireworks themselves, all the state fire marshal fees. There's like different inspection fees and stuff that they need to do. And then the cost of renting the fairgrounds. CEO of the fairgrounds told me this morning that they would give a 20% discount on renting the entire fairgrounds out. Not the buildings, but just the like open areas for folks to sit in. So 20% discount for that. Which is good because it makes things a little bit easier and able to get things done. I still am 100% convinced that we can get the money raised by the business owner, by the DBA, who will just reach out and get funding. I already had made a kind of a pledge that the city would pay $9,000 towards the event, assuming that he was going to do it. So the city is looking at least probably, I don't even think it would be 9,000 because I think we can get enough sponsorships to pay for the whole thing. 21,000 shouldn't be a big lift for our community to continue the fireworks on. The biggest issue is still for us is the insurance side. City doesn't have typical insurance. We're part of a risk pool with a bunch of different cities where the risks are pooled and spread out through all the different cities. There's multiple cities in the risk pool that also do fireworks and that actually have the fireworks show themselves. So it'd be a similar situation to what I'm proposing here. NCCSIF, which is the Northern California CISF, whatever that is, but our risk pool has told me that as long as the fireworks vendor's contract meets their insurance requirements, which it does, there wouldn't be any significant exposure to the city in terms of the insurance side, because the vendor takes the risk through their insurance. And obviously professional fireworks shows are much more safe than somebody like me lighting fireworks off on the street or whatever. So the risk pool isn't overly concerned about the risk of the fireworks show, assuming that the contract has the requirements that they have for the fireworks vendor. So at this point, I'm looking for direction from council on whether or not you want to give me direction to get the contract signed, the vendor signed, for the fireworks itself and for the fairgrounds, and then move forward with this year's event. I will tell you that I don't think that the city being the contracting entity is a long-term situation that we should be in. We need to find some sort of a nonprofit, whether it's standing up a new nonprofit like the Auburn Fireworks Committee, 501c3, or an existing one that would be willing to take it on. I don't think that the city should be in the position to be running the fireworks show every year, because we just don't have the really ability to do that. It's more of this year, if we're going to do it, fireworks are going to happen. Really the only way to make it work is for the city to take on the contracting side. So if council does give direction to move forward, then I would be looking at like July 8th or something. I'll take a couple days off and then figure out a way to do setting up some sort of a nonprofit to actually take it over, and we would transfer the responsibility for the event to whatever that new nonprofit is. So
That's something you would do, take on?
No, I would try to find somebody to do it, but yeah. And I think that there are nonprofits around that would be willing to do that, but we can't. Like I said, the contract was supposed to be signed on May 1st. He gave me until tomorrow, so after tonight's meeting, to say, yes, we're going to sign the contract or no. So
it's kind of like the Carnegie you'd let people know there's a need and if
Exactly.
there's
That's
an
right.
interest and
We
Exactly.
call
they're-
for
out.
a nonprofit association. the
Yep.
Fireworks
Take some
Association.
energy.
So I can answer questions if you have specific questions about.
Do we have any
all of that.
questions or comments?
I have comments.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, you talked a number of different numbers on what it would cost. What is the final,
All in, soup to nuts, it should be about 21,000, give or take a little bit. But like I said, the city has pledged 9,000. The rest of that amount would need to be made up by fundraising. I'm 100% convinced that we can get at least the difference between the 21,000 and 9,000. So whatever,
All
whatever
right.
that math is.
And someone's actively pursuing fundraising
Right.
efforts right now. I mean,
Yes.
right? So that's underway.
What's the cost of the fairgrounds?
About 4,500.
That's
So we get a
with the
20%?
20%?
That's with the 20% discount.
Oh, okay. 4,500.
Any other comments? I have some comments, but go ahead.
Yes, Sean, you and I have been talking about this for some time. This is the celebration, of the birth date of America. And I think that's very important. People expect to see those fireworks and, it is a shame that it's kind of come to where it is now. I really would prefer the city not to be the sponsor, but I also feel that it's really important that we have something for our community. I really feel that it would be missed and that it's necessary. So I'm supportive of your proposal. I agree with you. I think that the funds can be raised to help offset that cost. And it is my hope that somebody will come forward, an existing nonprofit, to adopt this project going forward. It's, I know that people do answer the call when we make it. So I would be very hopeful that that would happen. So.
Any other,
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I also would like, I also support this as well. This is one of those events that people think of when they think of Auburn. And I remember going to it when I was a small child, and it's an important part of our culture as a community. And so I think it's important. I also think it's important because we don't allow fireworks around. So we don't want there to be a fire risk. If we don't create a place where people can see fireworks, they might create their own, which would be even more dangerous as far as fire danger goes. So I think this is an important thing for us to support.
Yep. Yeah, just echoing the recognizing it's important, and also that I don't think it's something the city should take on indefinitely. Perhaps we should set a deadline for that nonprofit formation or whatever, so that we are not facing this question again, next year. And that in the event that nobody comes forward, we put this amount of money towards a better celebration in town that keeps all this money in our local businesses and our entities that are here, and provides entertainment maybe throughout the day. So I'm supportive of it this year, but with a plan for next year.
And I have a little different take. I mean, it matches yours a little bit. I think this is, I understand the history. My kids and grandkids look forward to it. 4th of July celebration. But by the same token, Chamber pulled out of it. I think it's really kind of an opportunity here for us to really support what they're doing in downtown Auburn, which supports our businesses. I think that in looking at it from a city perspective, from a personal perspective, I think I would love to, have the fireworks, but we have a budget crisis. This has come on us very quickly. You sound like 100% sure, but that's been since Wednesday. Things fall apart. Everything's on the city. And I think it's a better use of our money is to work with the chamber. They're going to have a beautiful downtown event right after the parade. It benefits Auburn. And unfortunately, the way I see the 4th of July fireworks is that staff is going to, be you know, there's a lot of support that there's going to take to have all these cars come in and watch the fireworks, which it's a wonderful thing, but also downtown, there's opportunities for kids to celebrate and families to celebrate. And I'm not convinced that, you know, that having fireworks is going to not having fireworks is going to have people break the law and have fireworks in their backyard. So I think this is the year to really not have the fireworks and focus our attention and our money, which we are in a budget crisis, onto the activities that the chamber is doing downtown. And I understand what they're doing is activities for kids, and it'll last all afternoon. They're going to have music for adults, and it'll be after the parade. It'll be a captive audience, and our businesses will profit. I don't see how our businesses will really profit with the fireworks celebration. So that's my take. You know, I think this is a time where we can try something new and make it really successful, because the chamber again is doing it, and I think they would appreciate our support too. So that's my take here on this.
I say we can do both. I support the chamber. I think what they're going to do is great. It's going to be wonderful. But
I also know that if we ask for support for the fireworks for our community, I think we'll get it. So I don't think that we'll be on the hook for the money. I think we can still support the local businesses. And I think when I was a kid, it brought me into town and we bought food and went to places to eat beforehand and things like that. So, especially if they're not going to be a bunch of vendors inside the fairgrounds, there's going to be people who are going to our local businesses. So I think it'll be helpful for them too.
I think too that time is of the essence. So turning around and trying to extend a party and get vendors, you know, like this year, because of the time, I'm concerned that we would try to pull off something different and not do that justice as well. So it's a.
Okay. Well, again, for the reasons I stated, I probably would not be supportive this year, because I think there still is a lot of uncertainty, and it puts us on the hook too. And I think in a year, you know, when we've laid off people and we have budget issues, I just think we have to be very prudent and careful, and liability is an issue, so.
Well, I will talk to several nonprofits that I'm aware of to see if they're prepared to contribute to this.
And then the thing we have to remember, I think we all agree that in the following year, you know, it's a big ask to have the city manage this whole program. That's not really a city service, but I think we're going to have to try and get out of this.
Absolutely. I think that there needs to be that nonprofit that steps up and takes over. But right now, at this point, it's so late in the game. I don't think it's really fair to try to, you know, I think.
Except that, again, I don't know if they've looked for nonprofits, but I think there's been a lot of talk about this for a long time, and nothing came up except for it's fallen on us, the city.
Do you have any blueprint from the chamber of like what is going to be expected in terms of staffing and
So we're not running an event. So all the city is doing is contracting with the vendor and then renting the fairgrounds. So folks can go in, watch the fireworks, and then leave. I'm not arranging vendors. So there won't be like a staff impact as far as that goes. It's basically just Don's going to open the CEO is going to open the fairgrounds up, let people come in and sit. It is the same day that Fast Fridays is, and this is the 30th anniversary of Fast Fridays. So, I mean, he will probably do something. I don't think he'll have a big event or anything, but it is the same night. So, but the city's not. The city's not proposing doing anything other than paying the fireworks vendor and then paying to rent the facility, and then that's it.
And our staff normally helps with traffic
That's
control,
right.
those kinds of things, no matter who's running.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Right. But what I
It's a big deal.
your comment about, making sure that there's a nonprofit set up early next year. Like, I don't want to be talking about this in January. It needs to be done before then.
Yes.
Where the nonprofit is ready to basically take it over by the first of the year. Because otherwise, we're going to end up potentially in the same spot because it'll be like too late, too late, too late, too late. So we need to make sure to get it done quickly.
But by putting the information out now and letting
Right.
people know and giving
Putting out
plenty of
the
notice,
call.
then if there's no one willing to step up, then that's up to the community if they don't want to have fireworks
Yeah.
anymore. But this at this late date, it would be hard to put anything
Right.
together in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion?
Do we need public comment, Madam Mayor?
Oh, yes, public comment. Do we have any public comment? No. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we direct staff to move forward as proposed.
I'll second.
Roll call, Councilmember Riddell Harris.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Holmes
Aye.
and Mayor Amara.
No. The next item is the solar installation of and NIM 2 discussion.
Madam Mayor, could we just have a 5-minute break, please?
Okay, that'll be 5 minutes,
This might be
8:20.
Sorry.
So, we're ready for our solar, except we're missing our city manager and our attorney. I guess we better wait a minute.
We don't need them. Let's proceed.
Okay.
Live life on the edge. Menjel's like, I get in trouble if I start it without my boss. I'm sorry.
I found that it doesn't.
Are we
matter
done
what
eating
I do,
pizza?
I
Can
will
we
get
get
in
back to
trouble.
work? Bueller.
Anyone?
Excuse, hello. Having way too much fun with this microphone. Mr. City Manager. Sorry. It's after 8 o'clock. Sorry.
Calling the city manager.
Yes. APB out for people.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item is the solar installation and NEM2 discussion.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm Angel Dean, Public Works Director, and good evening, the rest of council. I'll just give a bit of backstory so we can kind of briefly describe how we got to where we're at. On September 23rd, 2024, City Council approved an agreement for an ESCO with a 3-phase energy efficient audit and design and completion. Although the design phase was reviewed on April 28th council meeting, it outlined significant upgrades to other mechanical equipment and wireless thermostats and things of that nature that can be very much incorporated into the capital improvement program, which we've discussed earlier tonight. The solar PV installations proposed at the 4 sites through the ESCO process were City Hall, Police, the Police Department, Sacramento Street Fire Station. Those 3 were eligible for the NEM3. Well, they were eligible under the NEM3 application because, I'm sorry, NEM2, under the NEM2 application. The other proposed site, which was the wastewater treatment plant, wasn't originally submitted under the NEM2 application, but we can certainly realize some savings by doing it now. The city submitted those three specific programs under the project sites, I should say, under the NEM2 program, the Fire Station 2, which previous estimated it at about $86,000. City Hall was about $350,000, and that's primarily because we were doing a roof mount along with a solar carport and some chargers associated with that. I apologize, the chargers were not originally associated with that. It was just a roof mount and a carport. The police station was the larger of the 3 projects, which was about $484,000, and that's because that had 2 solar carport projects associated with it. Now, it should be noted that while Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 3 were not looked at as part of that ESCO process, they also had NEM2 applications submitted to PG&E. At this time, staff doesn't necessarily recommend moving forward with those just because those buildings are severely underutilized and it wouldn't make sense financially to move forward with that. Since I'm not a finance expert, I'll keep this portion a little bit, I guess, light. The proposed solar projects, the 3 that we just spoke about, were estimated at about $17 million under that ESCO project. You can see the numbers here are significantly reduced from that. In order for us to accomplish any of that, we would have to go through an RFP process to find a financer, and we don't necessarily know what the rates would be at this time. That is something that if the council gives us direction that they'd like to see, we can certainly find that out. And I would certainly utilize the help of our finance director, Gretchen Johnson.
She's not here, but I can answer. So if the city was going to move forward with any kind of a solar project, because we don't have the cash on hand to do that, considering where we are, we need to look at some sort of financing mechanism. There's different ones that you do. Another loan that we were talking about, that you could do COPs, a certificate of participation, which is basically like a HELOC on one of our buildings. But there's different ways to get there on the financing side. Still would need to take on debt in order to build the projects, though, because we don't have the cash to pay for them. And then talking to the finance folks from NHA last time, if you changed the overall scope of the project to a lesser project, the rates would likely be higher because or it could be more difficult to get financing because you're not doing as big of a project. We had bigger banks bid because we had a higher amount of, interest that they would be earning. So it's really kind of a shot in the dark how that would end up.
So I think the key takeaway here is if we just look at the three solar aspects, the fire station, police department, and city hall, under our previous bids that we've got, we're looking at about a $1.2 million project. Certainly, there's been some cost increase over the last few years since we've got this bid. We're working with the contractor right now to get more updated bids so we can know specifically where we're at. But the reality is these are the three sites that I think we should focus on, with the wastewater plant being something that we can look at separately because it doesn't have that NEM2 application that's kind of hovering over us right now. In order to meet that NEM2 deadline, we would need to have a project substantially in place by pulling a building permit and pulling all the permits with PG&E by April 15th of 2026. So those are the key dates to remember. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion with the council.
Well, okay, council, we have requests to go out for bid, basically, right? That's what you're requesting to do. And so we have some estimates here. We don't have a lot of information, but if we go out for an RFP, then we will get a lot more information back. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think what staff is looking for council to do is to provide some direction as to what project sites they would like to see, if any. We can certainly go out for bid for any 1, 2, 3, or none. It's entirely up to the council which ones we want to proceed with.
But what you said is that these are the three that fall under NEM2. So we're not making a decision tonight, right?
Just to clarify, I think what we're asking council to give direction on. So in the packet, in the past, we did the three NEM 2.0 projects. If we were going to do solar on anything, we would want to do those because that expires April 26th.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we were going to move forward with solar on anything, we would want to focus on those that have the NEM 2.0. The wastewater treatment plant we didn't apply for the NEM 2.0, so we could look at that down the road, because otherwise we're just going to kind of spin our wheels and.
But the point being, you just want to go out for bid tonight, or RFP, do an RFP for those three, and then all that information would come back and we make a decision then as to which ones and that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. So, during the discussion during the ESCO process, we talked about that we need to get some sort of like a cost benefit analysis, right? Looking at the energy load, what the solar would provide, what the cost would be, what the benefit would be. Right now, we don't really have anything for that. So it's the question for council is really, do you want us to pursue that and go out to bid, receive bids, and then see where that shakes out? To bring the information back. We're not asking council to approve anything tonight, obviously, because we don't have anything really to approve. It's more just giving direction to staff on what you what you want us to do moving forward.
I think what they also want to know is if we want the RFP to be for all three locations or just, is that right? Like one location or all three or two?
Yeah, so I would assume some sort of guidance is what.
But how can we make that? We need more of a decision. So it seems to me we'd want all three, right? So
that's up to the council to decide if it's 1, 2, 3, or none.
Well, that's correct, but we need information. And I think what our city manager said, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you put it out for an RFP, we'll have more information so we can make that decision. Is that true?
How much staff work is it to do
Wait,
one versus
I
three?
asked him.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, if you want information on all 3 sites, then we would release RFP for all 3 sites. If you're concerned about only one, then we would release for one. We don't have the information at all right now. So it's, we just basically need to know from council, are you interested in looking at all of them? Are you interested in looking at none? Or 1 or 2 or whatever? There, you could do it either, any of the permutations
And,
work.
and so what do you think is prudent to do?
I mean, if it depends on what council wants to do. I think that there's the amount of staff time to get information back if we're going to release an RFP. I don't know how long does it take to put those RFPs together?
Well, the reality is we kind of know the size of the systems that we're asking them to design to because we've already submitted that to PG&E. So if we ask for all 3, it probably, we can see something turned around in probably 21 days or so.
Yeah.
But I would urge the council to look at kind of the document that's in front of you and kind of make a high level decision as to if you'd like to see all 3, because you have some baseline numbers for the 3 sites to look at there. And I would anticipate that you're probably going to see anywhere from a 10 to 20% increase on each one of those.
But we don't know for sure.
We don't know, but I did have some conversations with this particular vendor that gave us these numbers. Energy Savings Pros back in 2024. So while we don't have anything solidified, we do have some rough estimates, and these estimates are good enough to go off of if you anticipate a 10 to 20% increase from where this was at.
Also working in the industry and working on solar projects, there have been cost increases. Even like the costs of transformers and all that stuff are significantly more expensive. So there's going to be some increase in cost over the last couple.
And the tariffs is up as well.
If the tariffs are impacting that, also a lot of that stuff comes from other countries.
Well, okay. So I just think what we do need to keep in mind is that, we have a $1.1 million utility bill. And I think we need to do something. And I think going out and having, these come back, especially since if we do not do it, we stand to lose the NEM 2 opportunity for any one of these and the 30% rebate, tax rebate.
Right.
So I think that'd be a big loss if we don't at least look at it.
Yeah, just like with the situation when we were looking at the ESCO project, we should not anticipate the rebate. We shouldn't expect it, but it could be something that could be realized if it's still available to us when the time comes to.
I'm hearing that from the industry, just on the power purchasing side, and I think Rachel agrees that that tax, that people are not counting on that. Like those that are selling power already are not counting on it.
Well, okay.
Are getting ready to
that's
sell power. So
I think that's hypothetical because what we heard last week was that there was, if we get it in fairly quickly, there is the opportunity to have a tax rebate. And I think jurisdictions are receiving the tax rebates.
I don't know that. We don't know that.
Based on speaking with people in the legislature in DC last year, there was almost no interest in incentives or continuing to provide incentives from anyone that I talked to. So
no, we're talking about the federal.
I know, I'm talking about federal and when we're in DC talking to legislators.
Anyway,
Yeah,
okay. So I think there still could be an opportunity. If you don't choose not to believe it, that's fine.
There's still a chance.
Okay. Anyway, so again, my take, and again, this is a discussion. My take is that we let this go out for an RFP and come back and we can make an educated guess because to kill it here, I think would be a very big lost opportunity, especially with our utility bill. We have to do something. And we obviously wouldn't do it if it wasn't budget neutral. If it comes back and we can get some sort of loan for 5 or 6 years and realize a big savings after that, I think we're money ahead. And what an opportunity we'd miss if we don't do it and at least look at it. I mean, that's all we're asking. That's all they're asking for right here.
Yeah, and keep in mind that 21 days turnaround would be RFP for solar providers that can do this. The city would still have to go out for an RFP for financing for this. So there is a quick turnaround on all of this. Staff will work
But
to
I
make
think
sure.
Our city manager, you did it before, and I think
Yeah, I don't think
fairly
that, I
quick.
mean, we would still use the NHA folks that we use to help with the financing package to prepare the RFP and all that. But yeah, getting financing shouldn't be a major problem. The question is going to be what does the financing look like, right? Is it a straight loan? Is it something else? What the interest rate is and all that. I wouldn't want to do financing for 20 years, certainly, because by the end of the payoff, then everything, we need to replace it. So I think if we were going to do some kind of a loan, it would be like a five-year loan, maybe 8 years at the most, because otherwise you're not seeing the savings until the very, very end. And sort of we're
I
in
mean,
the same
right
boat
here,
that we were
you're
before.
looking at under 1 million.
That's
the
the
understanding.
2024 costs. That's not,
This is
So
24.
it's 2025.
one of the things that I would like to bring up is that we never agreed on these designs and this amount of solar. This was just what somebody decided to do kind of on the back of the envelope to make sure we were covered for the NEM. And so I would want to make sure that normally there's kind of a low, medium, and high scenario that you get when you're doing solar estimates. And I know that carports make projects exponentially more expensive. So I'd like to see what it looks like with just rooftop, or maybe rooftop and a small carport versus multiple carport. It's going to, especially like they were saying before, you can't put anything into our dirt because it's just rocks, and unless you have dynamite. So I would like to look at what it looks like when we
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
do
So
versus doing a whole bunch of carports that's the reason why a lot of schools don't have them. They want to put carports everywhere and then they never pencil out.
yeah, absolutely. So please keep in mind that these numbers here that you see here, the 36 kilowatt hours and 125, those are based off of the uses at that site. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily have, when you submit the application to PG&E, they don't care if it's ground mount, roof mount, whatever.
And we can do less.
Yeah, we can absolutely do less.
Makes
It's
more
just
sense to cover only a portion of the usage of a building and not.
100%. We can go up to 10% more, but nothing more than that. But so obviously what we would look at is the most inexpensive way to accomplish this. Kind of get away from what happened to us with the last thing we were looking at, where we got some scope creep and things got a little larger than it necessarily needed to be. But these numbers, you can rest assured that these were the usage at each site. That's how it was designed. This isn't Schneider Electric's numbers. This is Energy Savings Pro's numbers when we were doing auditing with the sites.
Yeah, but this is assuming we want to cover most of the usage of the building.
Yeah, absolutely. We can reduce it. Yes.
So that's what I'm just saying. If
I think it would be thorough. That makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, so I
yeah,
think that we would just want to, because you were saying it would be fairly easy because we already know the design, and I'm saying I don't know the design because I don't know if I want to cover all of this usage. So that I would want them to give us you have like a 10-year payback with this amount, but a 20-year payback if you go just a little bit more. Sometimes that makes a big.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Do you have?
I have comments.
Okay.
So we've been talking about this for years now, and with all due respect, I was supportive of putting solar at the Courtyard. We've done that. We have solar at the wastewater treatment plant, although it's not operating 100%, but we do have solar. We have solar at the Courtyard. I'm not interested in pursuing this any further. The costs have gone up. I know you're saying we'll get an RFP to see what those costs are. I know that these costs are going to be expensive, go up quite a bit. And the city has not had an opportunity to discuss even the CIP. We haven't talked about whether or not this is the most important CIP item that we have. There's just this thought to move forward with it. And that's frustrating to me as well, because we haven't talked about this. We don't have a strategic plan. We haven't talked about if this is a priority. We already purchased renewable power. We've reduced our greenhouse gases by 50% because we've electrified our fleet. We've got some solar. We've done a lot of things. The city, I'm very proud of what we've done on the sustainability front for the city of Auburn. So we are doing these things. In my opinion, solar makes sense with storage. Now, I recognize that storage is too expensive right now, but that does not mean that storage will go down. That's why you have NEM 3. The cost of storage will go down. And once all of this issue with the tariffs and everything settle out, storage costs will go down. And when you have storage, it doesn't matter if you're on NEM 2, 3, 10, 16, or 40, because the purpose is that you generate the electricity, that you store the electricity, and that you're not selling electricity, that you're completely sustainable. That's what you hope to do with that storage. And so I don't think that we need to move now to ensure that we have NEM 2. Our goal is not to generate power to sell back, it's to generate power for use. And so I would honestly prefer to wait until storage made sense. It doesn't matter if it's NEM 2, 3, or 10, and really make it so that we're sustainable. And I'm just not interested in spending any more time and energy with staff. Again, we've been working on this for years. We've spent more than $100,000, probably close to $200,000 on this now. And there's so many other things that we need to work with on the city. You know, this would obviously require us to get additional debt, to go into additional debt. And our cushion is so thin right now. There may be other projects that we should go into debt for. We don't know. We haven't discussed that. It's just that this solar has been something that we've just keep pushing. We looked at the ESCO because we thought that would be a great model because we could actually make the payments with our savings. That's probably not going to happen if you go, conventional financing. Our rates are going to be much higher, of course. So I recognize I'm probably in the minority here, but I'm ready to to vote no on this. And I'm not saying I can't look at it later with regards to when storage is right, but I'm done with this at this point.
Councilman Holmes?
Yes, well, I'm wondering if we could get an RFP that broke down the city hall, the police department, and one other
Fire station.
location.
I think that's what the proposal is. It's
Okay,
their,
well, I'm in favor of doing that.
okay. So, no other, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think I hear both sides, and I think that this investment, though, is one that long-term will save us money. And I think that in terms of capital improvement is a positive. In terms of other improvements, sidewalks, bike lanes, they're great, but they don't generate funds directly back. So I do support this, and just to see what they come back with.
Do you want to go? You want me to go?
Did you want to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm in complete support of looking at PD. I think it makes the most sense. It has, we need it for resilience. I think we should make sure that we have enough coverage so that in an emergency situation, we can operate out of there. All of City Hall could go out over and operate easily out of PD in case of emergency. So I think that for resilience purposes, for cost savings purposes, I think we should do a good job and really work on getting the right system put on the police department. And I think that here, there's not a lot of rooftop. We haven't done energy efficiency in the world of carbon reduction and energy savings. You do energy efficiency first. This building is not very efficient to start out with, but we also haven't done the improvements we need to do. So basing your sizing based on its current use is not accurate. You need to base it based on an efficient building, and so that way you're not overproducing. And I don't know what that is for this building because this building is old and kind of funky. So it needs a lot of work and a lot of TLC and new HVAC and new lighting, all kinds of things. So I would be hesitant to try to find a right size here based on the roof and also the fact that we don't want to necessarily do carports because they're very not cost effective. And then same with the firehouse. I don't know how much efficiency has been done on the firehouse. It doesn't have a high usage. Only a couple of people are there. And they go in, sorry, the fire station. No, it's
Sacramento Street.
Sacramento. Sorry.
Fire Station 2.
Fire Station 2. So it's got a few people in it, but it's not like a big building with like 20 or 30 people in it on a regular. It's like basically like a house. So, I mean, because we don't have a lot of money and because we don't have a lot of staff and I want to make sure we're prioritizing our staff time, I would just want to focus on PD, make sure they're going to be moving their vehicles over to electric. So we'll need extra electricity for that. And there's a lot of reasons to have that be a resilient, cost-effective space. The other two are kind of older buildings or not high usage. So I think that they could wait until we have until we're in a better economic position to be spending money on those kinds of things.
Well, I'd like to see the numbers on all of them and see if it is cost effective. And I think there's a good chance that we will, maybe it won't make sense, but I'd like to see the numbers. I think I'd like to make a motion then that we, pardon me, public comment? Public comment? Okay, then I'd like to make a motion that we go out for an RFP for Fire Station 2, City Hall, and Police.
Second.
Also, before I roll call this, for the record, I do want to say that we received a public comment from Glenn Kramer and it's available in my office. Okay. On that motion, Councilmember Riddell Harris. Aye. Davis.
Aye.
Dowden Calvillo.
No.
Holmes.
Aye.
Mayor Mara.
Yes. Thank you, that passes. Then we are on to City Manager report.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Just two quick things considering the time. The first is that last week was actually municipal clerks week because we didn't have a council meeting. So I want to take a couple seconds to thank Amy Lind, our amazing clerk, for all that she does.
Yay.
Amy's worked here for 16 years, been our clerk since 2017. She's a master municipal clerk, got that certification. She's recently appointed to the board of directors for California Municipal Clerks Association, and she serves as their director of networking. So thank you for all you do for all of city stuff. I appreciate it. And then the second, just last one, Auburn Police Department has been highlighting the Blue Envelope Program. So that's a partnership with law enforcement agencies across Placer County to help support neurodiverse individuals during interactions with police. There's a blue envelope that folks would put into their glove compartment if they get pulled over by a police officer, that they can show that blue envelope that has information on how to best interact with them. So there's not some sort of a like unnecessary stress put on either side, the police officer or on the person who's having the interaction with the police department. So you can read the rest of that in the reports on the dais and obviously in the back as well. I can answer questions if you got any questions.
No questions? Okay. Future agenda items, discussion and identification of topics that require attention. In upcoming meetings, this section allows council members to propose new ideas, unresolved issues, or projects that need further planning or discussion. Do we have any? Do I ask the public about this? No. Okay. And finally, I think in light of the time and the energy tonight, we will skip the council report. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, then we adjourn this meeting.
All right.